I've got just several minutes, and I don't really know where to start. I was like most of you kids, I think you kids. I got a little scholarship when I was coming along because I was poor. And art meant absolutely nothing to me. All I could think about was one day I might not be poor. And I happened to marry someone who was poor, but she was intellectual. And she appreciated art and music and things that I considered superfluous to life. And through my wife's influence, and we've been married for 47 years, my wife told me one day, I was sitting there making some temporary crowns. I'm a dentist. And she said, honey, if you can make teeth out of a block of plastic, you could be an artist. And then the next thing you know, it was her turn to pick, and we took a class in watercolor, and I was mesmerized. That was my first exposure. I was 35 years old. I had been a dentist for 10 years. I had finally, quote, made it. I mean, I was making a living a whole lot better than one I had when I was younger. And I did have extra time to think about something other than making a living just to feed your family. And you cannot believe the difference that art had in my life. And I can't imagine a wall without a painting on it. I can't imagine a space without sculpture in it. And when I was this poor, dumb, young redneck, I would have never even looked at it. So, for those of you who haven't had the experience of knowing what art can do for your life, then I hope maybe tonight you start thinking about it. But my association with EWI started because of Linda Rowe, who's been with me for 40 years. I've been a dentist for 42 years, and so she's certainly an integral part of that. The only person that beats her is my wife of 47 years. But I've had a lot of people along the way that really helped me as this poor, young, naive kid that didn't know art from anything, you know. What I want you to know about me is that at the age of 35 years old, I had an appreciation for art that bloomed, and there was this creativity inside me that was just contained. I don't know where it was. When I was little, I didn't draw. I never had this aspiration to draw comic figures. Believe me, I had no aspiration for anything until I was about 35 years old, than to make a living. And then I found out what real living is. And real living is being involved in the moment. And things like painting and music and the things in life that are special are so important. And when I had the chance to help Gary asked me, because of Linda, he said, look, you know, we're teaching kids who aren't exposed to art. And I would like to expose my kids to art because I think it adds a part of life that you just don't realize till you have it. And his idea was that I would do this, and then I would push other people to do the same thing. So I got the dental assistants and How about Philip Morris taking the 6th floor? How about, I mean, I cannot tell you how much art means to this redneck. So, I consider what I did when I put paintings in that gallery an opportunity for me to expose my art and to show people the joy I get from art. It never occurs to me to try to make a living from art. I'm a dentist. I make a good living as a dentist. I don't need to try to supplement my income by selling paintings. So that my paintings are gifts to the community, either in collections like this one or single paintings to charities. I paint 500 original paintings a year because I'm compelled to do it. I can be dead tired, come home from work, and the first thing I want to do is go down there and put water on top of that paper and watch what happens when the paint starts interacting with the water. And it's something I can't help. It's just in me. And that was contained for 35 years. I'm 67 years old now. I've painted 15,000 original paintings. They're all over the place. Some better than others. Some I'll be embarrassed. You know, I'd like to take them back. I'd pay somebody to let me have them. But I will admit that the longer I've painted, the better I get. And that's true with life. The more experience you have, the better life gets, the better you get. But I think what you have to realize is even if your life is pretty sorry right this minute, if you just push, take advantage of scholarships, take advantage of anything that comes your way that has to do with education. My wife and I have decided to use our wealth to help educating people because both of us were poor, uneducated, and our parents were terribly poor and uneducated. And without education, I would have never even started to paint. And I certainly wouldn't have thought about giving it away. I mean, if you'd seen me when I was about 15 years old and I thought I knew how to paint, all I'd be thinking about was how to sell them. I'm lucky that I didn't decide I could paint till I was 35. Then I didn't need the money. So I used my talent as an artist. And it's innate. I mean, it's just in there. I can't take any credit for it. God gave it to me. And these paintings, all of you have asked me a lot of questions tonight. All of these paintings in this collection are different than any collection I've ever done. These are collages. They are all textured pieces of watercolor paper, either using bubble wrap or wax paper or cellophane or salt or alcohol. It's amazing when you put paint down on a piece of watercolor paper, what you can do to cause a chemical reaction while it's wet. And you just take those pieces and collect them and stack them, and then you cut them in random shapes, and then you go through the process of saying this piece looks like it goes with this piece, this looks like it goes with this piece, and then you build a painting from that original piece. Now, that's not the way I always paint. I'm a representational painter, usually. I'm not a contemporary painter. I'm not an abstract painter. But even my representational paintings do do not have sketches. I start with the watercolor, wet, put in the paint, let the chemistry and the biology and the physics of all sorts of chemical reactions occur, and either capture them at a certain moment and stop it, or let it go on to see what it will do. And what I find the most interesting is that sometimes I left my studio not knowing what I'd done, and I get up the next morning and the first thing I do is I run down there to see what I did. Because a lot of the painting happened after I went to bed. And I think that if you watched me paint, you would realize the spontaneity of it, the unintended things that happen just because of chemistry, biology, physics. And it made me realize that as a scientist, as a dentist, believe me, you cannot believe how much science I had to go through. I mean, it took me 8 years to get through dental school. And I knew specific gravities, molecular weights, but watercolor painting is chemicals. And it reacts with water, alcohol, salt. And if you are attuned to being spontaneous, it's amazing how accidental, really wonderful things can happen on a piece of paper. And that's what intrigues me. It's what makes me want to go down and do it after I've worked all day. I'm a full-time dentist. You ask Linda Rose, she's my executive assistant. I work full-time. I may be so tired I can hardly stand it, but there's something about that water and that paper and that paint that brings me back around and lets me sleep good at night. So the fact that I was able to learn to do this as an adult and to appreciate it, to engage my life in such a way that, my life would be so different if I hadn't discovered art. And I think every college, every building, every church, every courthouse, every place where people meet should have a piece of art hanging on the wall. I'm telling you, because art and spirit. In ending, I'll say that I consider Gary letting me hang my paintings on the dental area an opportunity. I didn't do that for him. I did that for me. It's a way for me to hopefully affect other people's lives in such a way as it affected mine. And life without art would have an entirely different meaning for me if I hadn't found it. And I found it just by luck because I married the right person. So, thank you for having me.